Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Visionary Soul Podcast. Today I have Ken, and Ken is an energy field architect and healer who, after a profound near-death experience, integrated soul aspects from his higher self and oversoul collective into his energy field. This union allows him to channel higher frequencies and transmit powerful ascension and healing codes to humanity using light language that is conveyed from his collective, which we are now calling your omnipresence.
Yes, yes. That's so
So,
confusing.
thank you so much for being here, Ken. It is such an honor.
Yeah, I love your energy and I love the opportunity to show up for you. So thanks for the invite. Much appreciated.
Yeah, well, I want to dive right in because I'm very interested. I would love to know um, what are some of the modalities that you're working with right now, and what is happening in your field currently?
So I don't have modalities, meaning that I don't have any trained process, right? Now, through my waking journey, which is about 7 years, almost 7 years to the date, I guess, I did take Reiki, right, to open up my energy. And I did take one healing modality, which helped me understand that I could do the job, right? And that was 3 or 4 years ago. But beyond that, my team, they had me turn everything off, all the news, all the media, all my newsletters. I don't get even your newsletters. Like they like, listen, everything's being turned off. We don't want you to pay attention to anything, right? And this allows what I'm doing to show up organically. And what I mean organically, every single person I interact with is different. The way the energy shows up, what I'm having to do, and I get some wild stories, right? And this allows that to happen because if I would have had a stringent modality that says, listen, you're going to, I'm making this up because I'm a funny guy, right? You want to heal the guy's shoulder, you're going to have to use codes 379, spin around twice backwards, and throw some flowers in the air. I'm being funny. I'm just being funny. But the point is, in a lot of modalities, if the solution isn't created, by someone, then you don't have the ability to handle that or to work on that. And that's not how mine works at all. And in fact, they have now shifted up the way I do things in just the last 4 weeks, where I see energy bubbles inside of the body. And as I'm dropping in the light codes, those energy bubbles will shift and move and eventually dissolve and disappear. They have me sitting on my hands, my team. They said, Ken, you can't use your hands anymore, because as practitioners, we want to reach in and grab something or shift something, or, this is a normal process. I think I'm part Italian. I'm not even sure, right? Talking with my hands. And they're like, no, sit on your hands now. And then also, and I don't know how other energy workers see their their visuals, right? But for me, I'm able to reach into the scene and pull things out, heal the past life and the ancestral traumas in seconds and so on and so forth. And now they're like, don't do anything. I'm like, what do you mean? It says, even when you're sitting on your hands, don't manipulate the scene because I'm used to reaching in and pulling the things out. They said, we want you to now just allow us to do it, and we're going to train you for that full release, the absolute full drop in release to allow that Christed light to come through and to do the magic that it does. So I'm learning, I'm struggling. It's like a hybrid. Now I'm like, you guys aren't going fast enough for me. They're like, we're doing just fine.
That is so interesting. And this is, would you say this is how where we are evolving into the levels of healing that all healers are experiencing, or this is very unique for your
My configuration is unique.
okay.
And the idea that what I'm about to do and what I am doing is what I, call the evolutionary human.
Mhm.
The fast track that I've been on is unusual. Right? Because they've been, every couple of weeks it's another thing and another thing and another thing. But the capabilities are in the human. And not only that, but these capabilities will become commonplace within 30 years in the human. So I'm not doing anything that I got a lot of energy flowing to me. I'm not doing anything different that you couldn't do, right? Other than the fact that you will eventually do it. It will just take you more time to get to where it has to be. And for me, because my mission is millions and millions of people, they're like, there's no time to waste. So my body is, going through a lot of energetic shifts, and I'm doing my best to, suck it up, Sally, as they say.
So your gifts came online 3 years ago. Is that correct?
Seven.
Seven.
Seven. Yeah, it was through what I thought was a near-death experience, and that's what I tell folks. But when we look at or listen to the stories of near-death experiencers, there's always a coming out of the body aspect. A common theme is I can see my body, and then another common theme is they go through a tunnel, and then they have these life reviews or these epiphanies or these instant healings. That's not what happened to me at all. For me, it was a 2 or 3 minute experience, lock in my bed, my stomach locked in the air in an upside down letter U, right? I got to tell you, I should have took a picture for a yoga instructor. It was pretty cool. Not at the time though. So massive energy flowing through the body, locked in place, and I could feel this warm energy swirling in the abdomen, and I could feel the energy coming up by the navel, right? And then I passed out and woke up the next day. What had happened that day was the team pulled all the trauma out of my body. I got a cheat code, and that's what I tell people. Like to a game, I got a cheat code. They pulled all that trauma out. And then the idea of the tunnel opening, a soul walked over this side into my field. So I didn't really go over as a typical NDE until there's another term called a spiritual transformative experience, an STE. I think that's more in alignment with what took place. And when that happened, my life changed in the idea that three-time cybersecurity entrepreneur. I'm a programmer. I'm a thinker. I'm a figure it out guy. I gotta know how the bits and bytes work. You know, what are the bad guys doing, so on and so forth in that industry. I immediately shifted to what happened to me. What is energy? What happened in the stomach? What could it be? And went to see psychics and healers, and I went down the rabbit hole, right? Which the soul essence, and it's not a full soul, it's an aspect. And I consider soul aspects as tools in our tool belt. Our higher self, we're bringing down soul aspects to help us with our business or to help us with our relationships. We get them all the time. This one, future version of me, came over and behind the scenes was pointing me to people who could give me a clue, but just a clue, not the whole puzzle, right? And they directed me to the energy healing. They directed me to all of these things in my life. So, you know, contrary to a lot of folks who do spirituality development, right? I am not your poster child. It's the opposite. Like, I don't have spiritual practices, right? I did in the beginning, right? Before they're like, you need to turn all that off and just allow us to do your thing. And I don't sit at home saying, I wish I could do X, Y, or Z. Right. And I don't go out and buy a book or hire a person. I did in the beginning. I did hire someone in the beginning to help me understand what multidimensionality was, but that went away as well. So I know a lot of practitioners will take modality A and they'll use it in their practice, and then they'll go out and they'll learn the next modality and use it in their practice. And that's just not how that works with me at all. They are I don't know if I'm kicking or screaming, but they're dragging me through my own ascension in this physical body.
And I feel like I'm also understanding that the shift is happening on many levels as I come into contact with like more activators, is that we have our own divine unique gifts and someone isn't technically teaching us these things. It's just the soul remembering what they are. Is that
It's not always the soul remembering. Okay. Think of the idea that, and this is them kind of talking to me. Think of the idea the first time that thingy happened. So we'll make it up for a moment. The first time you had energy coming out of your hands 1,000 lifetimes ago. Okay. You didn't remember that. There's a soul aspect that came down to give you the tool. And why we say we're remembering how to access that tool that we have. And this is how I see it. And the tools that I have, I've done 1 billion times. My soul, the core of me, shows up at times of ascension, like right when it's going to happen. And they show up and they literally do in our case, millions and millions of people to remove, and they're kind of showing me the blockage of that denser energies that are all of us. And denser energies is the healing, the trapped emotions, right? To do this in a very big way, I call myself like a big piece of construction equipment, right? Versus somebody who's doing finer work. So I show up, we bring this in so that the human, in our case, the human here, can then reach their evolution of the human body within the next 30 years. And I say of the body as well, not of just of the mind or the soul. The body is getting ready to change.
Mhm. So, what is your understanding of what our experience of life will be after we evolve, right? The evolutionary human, what would life look like?
So they're explaining to me now, you're going to discover love again. And we all talk about the idea of those high frequency in love energy, right? That, love being the greatest energy or gratitude, one of the two. I don't know the order, right? But this is going to happen on a global scale. And it's the idea that the fear-based programming will begin to dwindle away, and we will just be in love with the concept of love itself versus us trying to chase it. Because right now I feel everyone's trying to chase that feeling. The ones who are doing the work, right? They're trying to chase that feeling of unconditional love and gratitude and to live in the moment and the now. This will become commonplace where you no longer have to chase it. It's just who you are. And yes, we will have those days, right? But we'll also have, to overuse the word, the tools to rapidly shift that right back up versus holding on to that lower vibration too long. As they tell me, allow life to flow through you, have the experience, process it, move on. Versus what we typically do now is we have the experience, we process it, we process it, we process it, comes back up again, we process it, and we just let it really go away. So that's one of the big shifts taking place.
Mhm. And this is something that happens through the energy work that we do. And one of the things that really stood out to me when you said, they're upgrading you very fast, right? And so, what can you say about the average human or like what the collective is experiencing right now? Why aren't we all on this accelerated path? Um,
Well,
and
you
how,
are.
oh,
So,
okay.
so you are all on an accelerated path, right? It's not just me, myself, with what I call the accelerated ascension. I'm here to accelerate your ascension. And again, it's not just me. I'm just here with the heavy equipment, right? So you are all accelerating your ascension. So you're actually moving forward through time. And they're using time as an example right now, the time of Earth in the ascension process as well. You are all being forced, and we don't want to quite use the word force, but we'll use it at the moment. You're being forced to go through these energetic shifts in the body, which makes things comfortable so you can arrive on the other side when the daylight comes up with the horizon. You're nearly there. You're nearly there. And this will continue to accelerate and accelerate, accelerate. And we want you to understand that this is an acceleration always. It is not like you're going to reach an ascension frequency on day number 449 and you stop. This is the rest of humanity, the rest of Gaia, the rest of the universe. Everything will continue to accelerate at the ascension forever. So
Mm.
that's them. This is my team that's in the body. They're always here, but they talk to
Yeah.
you more than me.
And you had shared, so I want to understand your team a little bit because you had shared earlier, your team is integrating more with you and it just becomes embodied. They are literally with you 24/7 all the time. So
Mhm.
you are emitting their frequencies all the time versus, for example, we are just channeling through these the beings, the higher beings. Is there a difference? Like we are just temporarily connecting to those energies versus them entirely integrating within you?
Yeah,
And
there is a little bit of a difference, and I want to be careful here with just the prelude. The words that I'm going to say now are not egoic in nature. This is just how I understand it. When you are channeling, name the channeler or whoever you're bringing down, you are opening up that energy channel so it can come through, right, and be delivered. But it's also being downgraded in terms of the amplitude of the frequency, so that you and the human body can handle it, right, as well as those that are outside of you, right. And then when they're done channeling, you deliver your light codes and your magic. Boom, it's gone. Like the energy's gone, right? And you all sit and rest and recover from the energies. They've modified the cellular structure in my body so that when something new comes down, I'm a hollow bone, so I get new stuff every day. When it comes down, it gets put into my field, like a storage, like a storage battery or a hard drive, right? And they've configured me in such a way that this field around me contains those codes at all times. So when see me at the grocery store, or you interact with me, you're going to get whatever you're ready for, and your team is managing that, by the way. I don't work on strangers, but the point is that you will get what you're ready for because it's already present in the field. So I don't know if that's an understanding of the distinction.
It does make sense because I have been told like I'm an activator and I activate all the time. Like I can walk
Mhm.
through Walmart and people would be activated. And it
Yep.
didn't like my consciousness couldn't understand it where I was previously.
Mhm.
So you being able to explain that in a different in
You're
your
holding
terms.
those in your field, right?
Yeah. So like it's almost like we are just radiating these
Mhm.
frequencies and it's just a part of us.
Absolutely. And it's like when I don't know it when it's happening to those people around me, right? But I'll hear people in the crowds, whatever, and, man, God, my neck feels warm. And it's because they're working on the sore of their neck, right? Or they'll end up just radiating this amazing smile, this amazing energy because those lower emotions have been lifted while the time that they're around me. But my team doesn't allow me to see the energy of those that are around me because it'll be information overload. So you may be able to walk into a store and see the auras of people and be able to pick out the person who may need your assistance, right? Just as a natural process. I don't have that capability. They'll tell me, and if somebody needs my services, they will find themselves in front of me versus me running through the store. Hey, you got a problem with your energy? Let me help you. So I don't see that what like some people do, and I'm good with it. I think it would be way too much information for me to be able to read everybody's energy from a distance.
That actually makes sense. And you're right. Like, I don't know I'm doing it. I just exist. Like I just walk through the store because
But
I'm buying things and I don't know, right? I don't know what their activation is and any of that. And that makes sense because what's recently been coming through is they're really focused on us being in the present moment. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because many of us, we have been um exposed to like the like manifestation and all these like universal laws, but why is it important for us to be present in the moment?
so I can really only explain to you how it impacts me, right? Because I don't have the global, and I'm not tapped into the collective necessarily with the information. But for me, I live in the now. And in fact, my team tells me they deliver my knowledge, information just in now. Jin. So not Jin, but just in now. In the computer world, we would call it just in time when it comes to compiling. So they try to put things in a way that I can understand it, meaning that I'm only aware of the information, the knowledge, the thing that I need now. Now, I do ask my team larger questions. As an example, my income was this much for January. What's February looking like? They'll be, it's going to be lower. We're not telling you why, right? And I'll tell you why that happened as well in a moment. And then I'd be like, well, what's March looking like? Oh, it's going to recover and be stable. And then it goes up from there. I'm like, well, how? They're like, no, no, we're not going to tell you how it's going to happen. So on the topic of what I just said, in January, I had, a great income month. And I said, okay, let's do this again, team. They're like, no. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, just wait. Well, this in February, so yeah, was it March 26th? So probably the third week of February or so, I found myself, or maybe a little earlier than that. Yeah, it was probably the second week of February. I found myself waking up on a Wednesday morning. I couldn't animate my body.
Mm.
I couldn't move. And it wasn't paralysis. It was as if you can imagine, and this is the best metaphors I have, but you got a puppet with puppet strings. Well, consider those strings the energy cords to your fields. All right. Well, now imagine those strings are gone. There's no energy in the fields for me to animate the body. I know it sounds really odd, right? But we know that the emotional body, the celestial body, the astral body, they all come together for this. Well, my team replaced all of my energy chakras and they replaced all of my fields, right? And they were doing this, they were doing it for days, but I woke up right in the middle of the disconnect before they put in the new ones. And not only the animated body, I was void of emotions. And I gotta tell you, it's the creepiest thing. Like, where are my emotions? And you didn't have an emotion about the thought of where are my emotions. So they were pulling out the emotional energy body when that happened, right? And then the reason they did that is because, as we'll talk a little bit more in a moment, but they continue to modify the cellular structure of my body to hold more and more and more frequencies. So I had reached the max that my current energy fields could contain. So they brought in new fields that now allow me to grow even more. And they had told me that the frequency, the best way I understand it, had exponentially increased by a factor of three, within the week, I think, of them doing that. And within a month from now, it'll be exponential of a factor of 10 from what it was previously. And all this means, okay, is that my ability to deliver more further, further out, right? And with more intensity is upgraded. So, this is what happened to me. I'm just talking about my team, the just and the now. So I know there are some things coming for me, but I don't know when, right? And they won't tell me the whens, right? And I wake up every morning with no worry about the outside world, right? Last year, March, literally the third week of March, I had left for Mexico, right? And I went to Mexico for 6 months to a country I've never left the States, and I don't speak Spanish, right? But I knew I needed to go. And in fact, I had asked for a divorce 2 months earlier, roughly right around like January 6th. My team's like, "You're getting the divorce now." I'm like, "I'm getting a what?" They said, "Wait till after the holidays to tell her." And ultimately, 17 years, beautiful marriage, lots of love, right? But my frequency had rose so much that there was no longer the connection, right? And my team's like, "You need to do a solo journey for a while," meaning that I had to put every ounce of my moments into what I'm doing. So ended up in Mexico, in Yalapa, April last year in Yalapa, I had nine more come into my field, nine more soul aspects. And then in July, I was in Tulum. And in Tulum, they said, go do Cambo and Bufo. They don't talk to me like that. So when you get that message, it's not like you're questioning it. It's like you just know.
Mm.
You just got to go, right? And for me, I didn't have any, I think the word's intrepidation. Like I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared with any of it. But the old me would have been freaking out, right? The idea of an ego death, very, very real. In the Cambo, I saw the ego walking out. Or, not saw the Bufo. I saw the ego being walked out. But I also saw at that time 22 soul aspects as I'm coming out of the Bufo in the tent. 21 of them were shards of light with some outlines. This was intentional. We don't want to take the story. Like if I would have known everyone in that room, I would have started having conversations with everyone in the room and it would have just snowballed. So, but the one to my right was solid 3D. It certainly felt like that. I opened my eyes, I'm looking at them. I close it, I'm looking at them, right? So, and then the message they had for me was your 24th chromosome's online now. And everything you have done at this point was the sniff of the aroma of what's to come. They amplify my energy bodies. And that was the day that my soul braid, remember like a braid of a rope, merged into a soul infusion. So I'll kind of give a little bit of a description on that. A soul infusion is where you have one consciousness, but made up of multiple consciousnesses. So everything operates as one. We would call that typically in the spiritual world a collective, right? But when we say a collective, we think it's a collection of souls in a room, something like a meeting room, or I'm not, forget about the room for a second, but a collection of souls all being present doing a thing, no different than a team. It's very, very different. A collective is a merging of all of those soul aspects into one unified source. And the term that was brought up the other day, I got to read it because I can't remember it, is an omni consciousness stream of divine intelligence. So everybody, every soul aspect that's in my divine stream is from the divinity realm. They're all Christed, they all are ascended, or they're all archangels, whatever they are. So these are the ones that play on my team, but they are me now. And no, I don't talk to them individually. There's one voice, one face, but everything I need comes out of me as I need it. So even when you ask me questions about this or that, I don't know the answer, but it comes out my mouth. So it's it's just, I'm still trying to, get used to the new clothes, so to speak.
And that means when you say you don't know who's speaking, so it's just one, it's just one.
It's just one.
One
And
soul.
I have such a large amount. And the way that I understand it from our dear friend Sheila Seppi, it's like this omnipresence consciousness stream. I'm only aware of the ones they allow me to be aware of, just so my mind doesn't flip out. She says, but there are always new consciousnesses coming into this stream based on the task at hand.
Mm.
For me, I call it the mechanical process. All right. So hollow bone. So you show up in front of me for a reason. You don't even know what the reason is, right? But your team does. And your team says, Nikki needs to have an Octarian activation. Okay. Just as an example. So they go out to that collective out there or that group or that council, right? Who then works through my team to one, bring it through the Christed Octarian that's on my team. And what he does is he ensures it doesn't violate any universal laws, right? You know how contracts are? Sometimes there's small print, right? So he ensures that the contracts are clean, amplifies it, and then he moves it in through the ones that are ascended inside of me. They're the ones that ensure it doesn't violate any universal laws. So you imagine each species have rules. So he's there, the Octarian's there to ensure the rules are followed. Then the Ascended Masters are there to ensure that the universal laws are followed. Free will is the example. And then when you find yourself in front of me, everything comes down the hollow bone where I'm not allowed to touch it. I have no capacity to interfere with it, and I have no capacity to receive it. So it's kind of like the teams out there are ensuring that what's being delivered to those in front of me have passed through the divinity realm to ensure it's as high vibrational as possible. That's the mechanic. They had me draw that out one day. Like, okay. Yeah.
So because they have you sitting on your hands, that means you are not allowed to do anything. It's just the energy working itself on
Yeah,
however you're meant to receive them.
that's correct. And don't get me wrong, I try. Right? I'll be in the session and I'll see the energy and I'll be like, oh, we'll just open up a portal and remove the dense energy. They're like, no, just wait and see. And they talk to me in the sessions as I'm doing the light codes. They're like, no, you can stop now and just let us do the thing. And what they do is when I do my light codes, it feels like I'm in the back of my head and I'm looking at my mouth and I'm feeling the muscles of the mouth. And I'm looking at my tongue doing whatever the tongue does, and I make fun of them. I'm laughing at them when they're doing this because I see frequencies coming out of the left side of my tongue. And I see them coming out of the right side, but they never ever come out of the middle of the tongue. So I make fun of them. I'm like, you can't handle the whole thing. Nothing comes out the middle. I'm having these conversations with them as they're delivering. Yeah, it's funny, right? Like I even know what I'm doing.
I mean, I feel like that's the pure embodiment of just being a channel, like just allowing that to integrate or not integrate, but really just pass through you to be received by the other party. That's like the pure embodiment of it. You're not supposed to do anything.
That's what's happening. But I still resist, right? I mean, and this new piece has only been about 3 or 4 weeks, and I still resist. And now there's kind of a hybrid approach, meaning that they'll go through the whole body, but then I'll be like, listen, we need to focus on whatever that body ailment is, or whatever the thing they're looking for, and then I'll go take a deep dive into a little further, and I'll start pulling out things, and I can feel their eye rolls, like.
Mhm.
Again, I'm like, I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, but they got it. So I'm still a little bit in that surrender process.
Can you or your team speak to like those of us who are listening and we are the healers and the light workers and the activators, how you've moved through the process and your understanding? Are we always being guided? And is it just easier to surrender to the guidance than it is to like, right? Like when you receive the vision that you're supposed to be here helping millions, and for example, we receive visions, but perhaps how do we know it's meant to be for the now? It's meant to be for the future. Like, what do you do?
So for me, you need to understand that they're in the body, right? So I'm kind of always connected. And what they're telling me here is when you're receiving your guidance, one of the more difficult things that we have as humans is knowing who that guidance is from. Okay. I had a friend of mine once tell me this phrase. Bigger levels, bigger devils, right? So as we move up as workers in our own ascension, and as our practice grows and our energy grows, we need to even be more diligent about who's communicating with us, right? So once you're sure that who you're communicating with is the accurate information, surrender to it and allow it to flow. Timelines stink and they bite me in the butt all the time. And I call them out. You told me last week, so on and so forth. So we have to release the idea of these timelines. So everybody is being guided, but not everybody is being guided by what I call the force that's in 100% alignment with you, your mission, and your purpose. So when you're receiving that guidance, make sure you ask, are you in 100% alignment with me, my mission, and my purpose? And it'll mostly always be your higher self that'll step in and answer.
Mm. And
So
the and you said you used to have a spiritual practice, but now because you're embodied, you don't. But for those of us who are like still integrating these pieces, do you
mm,
recommend being in a meditative state to ask this? Like, how often do we do it?
everybody's going to be different, okay? And they're saying follow your inner guidance. You're going to know. You're going to know when it's time to kind of tap out of the world for 30 minutes and drop in to just listen to whatever happens to flow through, right? Even I'm guilty of doing or not doing that. So my team, I ask questions all the time. I don't just open the door to holler at them or open up the door and say, okay, give me what you got. I'm always asking questions. It's a two-way conversation. And if I don't ask the right question, I don't get the right information. It doesn't have to be like that, though. I'm guilty of the idea of just sitting there and allowing. But on the other hand, when I need to know something, they will tap me on the ear. They would say, get ready for this, get ready for that. This is coming. But they do it almost in the just and now, like minutes before or, a day before if it's something critical. The deeper the practice, the deeper your connection, the more information you're going to receive. And not all the information you receive needs to be actionable information either. Often it's an awareness of what's happening that allows you to drive or move through the day in an unparalleled and an unaltered reality. The information is critical. We also want to state that even though you're sitting there and you're not receiving words, you're receiving the information, guidance, if you will, into the energy bodies around you, which will give you that subtle direction or the subtle knowing or the subtle knowledge when it's time. So don't worry about if you're not hearing the words. Okay, so that was them,
Yeah.
right?
Thank
It's
you.
it's just in the now. And I wouldn't have known how to answer that question, but they do.
Yeah. Is there anything else that they would like to share with us? And can we receive a transmission from
That's
you?
what they want to give you guys. So we talked about this just before we got online, right? And we said, okay, let's pick the intention for what's going to come through. And the intention was to accelerate everyone's ascension, right? And there's going to be some codings coming. There's going to be some codes that come down for everyone, which are going to that are going to touch DNA number 2 and DNA number 3 to tweak them a little more. Some of you are going to get a little tweak to DNA number 4 as well. All right. As well as they're going to begin opening up this channel more. Okay. And so easy peasy stuff. Ready? Just close your eyes. They want me to ground the heart first. So if you would just please visualize tree roots growing from the bottom of the heart, down the torso, and down each of the legs. Visualize those tree roots growing past the knees, past the ankles, and into Mother Earth. Grow them down, down, down. Find the center, the core of the earth, and wrap them 3 times around counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3. Hold them snug with love. Now please visualize a dark room. Lots of love in here. It's just dark. Then as you're in there, you can visualize the night sky, or you can visualize yourself out in space in the universe. And that's it. Just allow whatever experience to take place. Shkadario no te moria kine kishkare no rio no moria shkidi ko moria aria ti kishkidi kine no moria kapa pa yedin kan nishkidi ka atu ti shkidi no preto ya no ria ta kishkidi kine moria na kare chkuria kiro ka moria to kine chkuria pa aru shkidi to chkuria shkach shurur ti de marko ndo shkidi ata ta ti chkuria go donir preto ya aro to ra shkidi ka pa yakia shkida no chkudo to di ni shkidi kuno to di no ria ma bala to rol to di ne rata shkida ki shkidi no moria to shudo to yakia shakaro to ria mama yeni ani shi ata ashat goro to ka papa ya kutu chkutu apa ashi ata ashi ashi chkutu apa aru chkutu kino ti chkara atu shudo lia rotoria mama la rotoria shi kinia ma pare ka ki shi ata kara kutu ama pa ale kutu chkutu no rio shukuro to ti 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 ma rio ti ti Scudoria di chi niente attacca come tutto ti atto ci si di ti cadaya loro ta ani sa ali a ci niente ani skini andi na alla rotoria ma ne mamma no di no di rata di lotti alla rotoria mamma la kishi tocco Nyalatare akile rotoria in shin kinia toto kapapa yalare to shukuturo to apapa ara ruti unushi ruturi onotorio notoria kapapa yakarata rotoria mabala kalati shiro toto no ini piedi kinishki di ataka rotoria mama le rashiatoria mapa yoshoto mama yalare ania shokoria papa yonoshi okorio koyo yononia mama kalea Korea shiki kiepe kia kapapa tata shuro shuriotoria mamaria kara tori shiata mababa pako toto yata pa ki shakiaka koriotori mamaka ayaniata no to ebogo no to rioto to apa lario to shoto no to de pa leke lishki diro no to ratiati no papakare kuchieti kitieta ki pitieto koto to amapa ala ro shukuto shutoria pianiti shikitieta era to shukurio lario no moyata nishukuto to bi shatu kapapayaka mama yoloria nishiaka Shakatushoto. And you come out of that when you're ready.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Um, you had mentioned that the transmission was for certain like DNA or
Yeah, two, three, and four. That's what they
how
told us before we started.
how do you recognize what those DNAs are for, or you
I
don't?
don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't unless I need to. When
Okay.
you're in a group, that's really not plausible or applicable because all of your listeners receive something different. Remember, it's coming from their team,
Yes.
right? But it's flowing through this channel, and you would have noticed different tones. And they said there are 13 different energies that came through to apply to whatever number of folks you have. And this is on the replay. Listen to it again in a couple of weeks after that had settled, and your next activation was already coded for you in this transmission. So the more they listen to it, the more coding they get. But they don't want to sit there one night and listen to it 5 times. Doesn't work like that. Space it out over a week or two.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ken. And
Mhm.
is there anything else you would like to share with us um, before we end the podcast?
You know, I'm while I am a healer, the team does it. I say I, but the team, right? It's really about the miracle. My team creates miracles for everybody. And I want to define a miracle so we don't go off on the egoic tangent for a moment, okay? A miracle is defined as something positive happening without a logical explanation. So no biblical reference there, but the term miracle. Everybody's going to get a miracle. And whether it be their shoulder being healed, their dis-ease being relieved or gone, their activations happening, or their team's now closer, whatever that is for that person will get what they need. But the real purpose is to create that spark inside of them that says, oh my God, what just happened? And then to go find a practitioner, a healer, a psychic, a person who can then guide them on their journey. I'm here for the heavy lifting, but I don't have the capacity to have long conversations about situations that really do need compassionate healer who can understand and guide them through the moments of life. So, you're probably not going to have a love story conversation with a construction worker. So that's really the message.
Well, thank you so much. And if anyone would like to work with you, we have your website on your screen, but would you like to say it for us, for those of us who would like to hear it?
Yeah, so it's kenlloydofficial.com. And if you put in the coupon code HEALING, all capitals, so HEALING, healing, you'll get 25% off, whether it be the group sessions or the private one-on-ones. My one-on-one sessions, you can grab 30 minutes or 60 minutes. You do not need 60 minutes with me. 30 minutes and we're having coffee for 10 of them. So yeah, they happen so fast.
Amazing. Well, blessings and thank you. And thank you to everyone attending. And I will see you guys in the next podcast episode. Oh, hold on.